Most immigrants believe that when they learn the language, they can communicate and integrate better. And as such, they go to language schools or try different ways of learning the language. But what they would never tell you in any language school, and what hardly anybody will tell you, is that 93% of language can never be learnt in any language school or any language book. This might sound surprising and shocking to you, but watch this video and I'll explain it to you.
This is Mr. Ojo and his family. He's lived in Europe for 10 years. His children were born in Europe. But the teacher is always complaining in school about his son. And his wife hardly seems to have any friends. She's always lonely. Mr. Ojo himself is always having issues at work. His colleagues don't see eye to eye with him. His friend advises him, you need to work on your non-verbal communication.
Verbal language, spoken language, only makes up about 7% of communication. The rest is all non-verbal. When you learn how to speak a language, you merely learn how to pass data on to the next person. But so much more of a language is the non-verbal aspect. What is non-verbal language? Non-verbal language is any other way of communicating apart from speaking. This includes the look on your face, your frown, the tone of your voice, the way you are dressed, and so much more. That communicates much more to a person than the actual words you speak. So let's have a look at this. In the olden days, especially where I come from in Africa, a lot of emphasis was placed on non-verbal language. So you would notice that as a child, you often got scolded, don't look at people in the eye, or sit properly, close your legs while sitting. A lot of emphasis was placed on non-verbal language, but somewhere along the line, we forgot that. We were all more focused on how we speaking with accent, speaking more like European, speaking more like American, and we totally lost sight of our non-verbal language and how important it is to us. And that's why when we migrate to other countries, we start having communication problems because we only pay emphasis to learning this 7% of their language, the spoken one, and totally neglect 93% of the language. When I first came to Germany, my daughter was in the primary school, primary one, and the teacher called me and said, you know, whenever I'm talking to your daughter, she looks down on the floor. She doesn't look at me. And I was like, well, what you're complaining of is actually in Africa a sign of respect. And she told me, no, you have to teach your child to look people in the eyes when they are talking. So again, I assumed that was right. And I started teaching my children to adapt here to look people in the eyes. But it took me some time to realize that that's actually not correct. She didn't tell me the truth. You have to look someone in the eyes, but not a constant stare. Because when you stare constantly, it's like you're trying to enter the person's mind. It's also really seen as a form of rudeness, or it's negative. And yet again, Not looking at all makes you appear shifty, dubious, hiding something. So it's actually that mix of looking in the eyes and then looking away at an object, then looking again at the person, that is the healthy combination. But I didn't know that. So we really have to focus a lot on the non-verbal language and adapt ourselves to it. And I'm just going to mention some aspects of this non-verbal video. I'm sure you'll be able to think of more. A lot of non-verbal language is through body language. When you are talking to someone, the person is watching you. The look on your face, the expression on your face, how your mouth is placed, how your eyes are, where your eyes are, whether you're frowning, whether you're smiling. So you have to study the people where you are and learn this body language. How to hold yourself, how to sit on a chair. Most of us, when we sit on a chair, sometimes we lean back, we are more relaxed. But when you go into an interview or when a child is sitting in school, you are expected to sit a bit more upright. All these are part of body language. Even pointing with your finger. So there are so many things in every country, and it really differs in many countries. So pay attention to body language in the country where you are. Pay attention to the clothes you put on, especially when going for important appointments. Now, it's not about being expensive or not being expensive, but sometimes it's just about even the colors of the clothes, like bright colors, red, yellow, so you wear them in the daytime to go to an interview. It doesn't really fit. Pay attention to the clothes you wear. Pay also attention to the smell. Smell is a very important part of body language. You might even be wearing a very strong perfume. You might think it's nice, but it's imposing on the other people because people have different ideas of what is a pleasant smell, even in a perfume. A perfume you like might irritate me totally. So pay attention to perfume, smell, the body creams you use. All those are part of body language. Pay attention to proximity, where you live, how in that country, how close should you get to a person when you are speaking? People talk of their space. Don't enter the space of a person. Don't move too close to the person when you are not familiar with that person, especially when you're a man and you're talking to a woman. Sometimes we have this habit of maybe going nearer or so. Keep a respectable distance. Space is also a part of body language. And then also, when talking, and this is really important, and this is where they get most Africans too, and also people from other countries. We are very temperamental. It doesn't matter what you say, but how you say it. I could sit here and say, I can't take that. But if a man huge would yell, I can't take that, it would look like a threat. So the tone of your voice, even the intervals you make between sentences, all this is body language. Many of us would think, oh, my child was born here, my child speaks the language. But no, your child is speaking only 7% of the language, because that non-verbal part of the language, that is what the child learns also at home from you. So you may be at home, like we Africans, when you get annoyed, you get loud, and then you start waving with the hands. Now your child goes to school and does this. In an environment where such things are not really conventional non-verbal language, and it becomes a big problem. This is one of the reasons why our kids have problem communicating, because those integration problems we have, they inherited it from us. And if you really observe, even when you are learning a language or you are doing integration course, nobody is ever going to tell you the truth that there's a part of communication that is so much more important than just learning how to speak a language. So as an immigrant, if you are trying to learn the language, the spoken language, which is just about 7%, 7 on a scale of 100, you probably never get up to 7. But what you can do is work so much on the non-verbal language. Watch the people in your surroundings. Watch how they react, how they communicate, their non-verbal language. Learn it and try to adapt it when you have to communicate. It will help you a very long way, because through your non-verbal language, you can get people to listen to you, to sympathize with you, to take you serious, and to react on what you are saying. Anytime you see people, you observe people, you are interacting with people, watch them, study how they move their hands, how they make their facial expressions, the tone of their voice. Try to adapt it, even if you can't speak the language. I try to make videos on topics that are relevant or interesting, especially for immigrants. If you've liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, like, share, and hit the notification button.